Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Good morning. Welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm Marlene Cuellar,
And I'm Gavin Courtney.
and thank you for joining us this morning.
It's a beautiful Tuesday morning here.
It is the first day of June.
That's very true.
Yeah.
And you know, we're at the halfway mark of the year. It seems crazy when you
Yeah.
think about it like that.
And the start of the hurricane season. Not what we want to think about as we start a fresh month,
No, yeah,
but
absolutely.
such an important reminder.
I know, and we have already been seeing some activity in the Atlantic, and you know, as has been the trend for the past few years, they are predicting a pretty active storm season. So we, of course, will be monitoring all the situation where that is concerned. But for now, we are enjoying some pretty warm weather in Belize.
Yeah. No, it is beautiful days for sure. But of course, the country is still very much in a buzz. It's been since last Friday that the country was shocked by the news of the fatal shooting of Superintendent Henry Jamont and all the stories that have followed about the detention of one person. And now we officially have the charges laid for manslaughter by negligence of Jasmine Harton.
Yes, and if you were keeping up with the events, you will know that she was formally arraigned in the San Pedro's Magistrates Court yesterday afternoon, where she was, read the charges. And we know, of course, that she was represented by Senior Counsel Godfrey Smith along with Mr. Hector Guerra. And they did apply for bail at the Magistrates Court, and bail was denied at that level.
Yeah. So what we know as of this morning is that she is detained in the at the San Pedro Police Station, and that she is likely to be transferred to Belize City today, where she will then be transferred to the Kobe Foundation.
Yes, and of course, with her being denied a bail at the Magistrates Court level, it is of course her right to appeal and apply to the Supreme Court for bail. That is something that is very ordinarily available for crimes of this nature. Of course, I and probably you, Marlene, have been keeping up with some of what has been said on social media, and everybody, of course, is abuzz about the situation. I was noticing, of course, a lot of people were questioning why manslaughter, why not murder, and even if people, you know, were expecting people were expecting bail and all sorts of things. It's interesting to note how these things are going, how the case is developing, especially, you know, from a legal standpoint as well.
Of course. Yeah, you know, and I think that the demand for justice is one that people naturally attach to. The interesting thing for me has been watching all the international reports that have been going on. Of course, this is a huge story, not just for us locally, and, you know, we've had stories here or there that have really captured the country's attention. This is definitely one of them. But for us, and I think looking at two circumstances, well, three really. One is a well-known and well-liked member of the police department. The second is definitely the circumstances as to how this death occurred. It is just it's a very strange story, and really and truly, there are only two people who can tell us what happened, and unfortunately, one of those persons did not survive. And the third is, of course, Jasmine's connections. Jasmine is the partner of Andrew Ashcroft, who is the son of Lord Michael Ashcroft, and I think the connections there definitely just feeds into kind of the frenzy that's going on. But it has been really interesting to see as well how things have shifted in the past few days. The commissioner in his recent interviews has definitely been a lot more cautious.
Yes.
When he gave his interview on Friday, you could sense that he was sad and down about what was going on, and clearly this is something that the police department also is in their own process of mourning. Yesterday he was very much cautious in his responses, and even when the media pressed for answers for questions, he was saying, well, I'm not going to get into that at this time. He clarified that homicide is just murder is just when a human being is responsible for the death of another human being, and that the intent is really what makes the difference. But this is clearly going to be something that we'll continue following in the days ahead. Today is another critical day. We are told by Senior Counsel Godfrey Smith that he will be giving an update today. So we look forward to that, to hear from him as to what has transpired over the past few days and what they plan to do in the days ahead.
Yes, and of course we'll be bringing you coverage of all those events and be monitoring the situation as it develops.
That's right. And of course, in other news, the strike. Yesterday, the Belize National Teachers Union officially gave notice that their strike is on hold. But that, of course, is also, they've also notified that they will be looking at legal options moving forward. So teachers should be returning to their virtual classrooms today, and if they have in-person teaching, they'll be going back into the physical classrooms as well. Meanwhile, the PSU say they continue with their trade dispute, and we'll keep on monitoring to see what that means. What we know is that the teachers are the ones who represent the numbers. So when we see protests in the streets or gatherings in a particular area in protest, it's predominantly teachers that you will see. The Public Service Union, it's not as easy for them to get out, and they just have never been the ones to really represent the numbers.
Yes, and of course over the past few weeks as we've been monitoring that particular situation, we have seen how it's developed with both concessions being made and requests being made on both sides, and I'm of course referring to those the Belize National Teachers Unions on the one hand and the government of Belize on the other. And initially, while the protests seemed to surround mainly the issue of the 10% salary cut, we saw how that expanded to a wider issue of good governance, and of course we see how the government has responded to their call, and we'll actually get into that a little bit later in our show. But for now, we can say that the teacher strike is on hold, and as they said in their release, they are looking at their legal options.
All right. And so we are going to get moving into our show. That's the update. Of course, you can look forward to more updates in our newscast tonight at 6 p.m. But moving on to some motivation to get our day started. And that means it's time for our Eye Opener. And our Eye Opener, taken from DailyOn.com, goes like this. Every thought we think and every action we take has an impact on the world around us. To be aware of this is to be conscious of our impact on the people in our lives. Sometimes we just want to do what we want to do, but considering the full ramifications of our actions can be an important part of our spiritual growth and awareness. At first, being more conscious requires effort, but once we have made it a habit, it becomes second nature. The more we practice this awareness of others, the more we find ourselves in easy alignment with our integrity. With regard to our actions, we may have something difficult to express to someone. Taking the time to consider how we would feel if we were in his or her shoes will enable us to communicate more sensitively than we would if we just expressed ourselves from our own perspective. When we modify our approach by taking someone else's feelings into account, we bring benefit to that person and ourselves equally. The more we do this, the more we reaffirm our integrity and the integrity of our relationship to the world.
You know, I really like this morning's eye-opener, and I think that it's something that we all need to put into practice, especially when it talks about putting yourself in other people's shoes before you say or do something. And you have to consider the impact of how your words or what your words and your actions will be. And I think that if we put that in mind, then it can solve a lot of the issues which we eventually get into. And I think about things, and it doesn't necessarily, or it isn't only restricted to what we do, or our interactions with people, just directly. It often involves our indirect communications with people, and even just when you're out, you have to take into consideration that your actions can affect. So, I mean, it can be something, it definitely applies to how you speak to people, how you act around them, but I mean, in general, just, how we behave in almost any social context, we have to think about how our behavior is going to affect other people. And I'm thinking right now, just as a metaphor to this, I think about driving all the time because
there's a whole lot of lack of perspective there.
Exactly, but I think about it in the sense that you also, when you're driving a car and you're on the road or something. I mean, you have to think that your actions, the slightest actions, affect pedestrians, other motorists, and also things, dogs, everything that that shares the roadway. And I think that is sort of a metaphor for how our general behavior should be modeled, in that we have to take into consideration that there's other people's, there's other thoughts, there's other feelings. Some people, are you in a familiar setting? Are you in a professional setting? And, take all of that into account. And, I mean, it's difficult.
Yeah.
But it's necessary.
Yeah, and I think it's something you've got to work on. Perspective taking or being able to, as we say, walk in somebody else's shoes is one of those things that we just don't do naturally. We know our way, we know our way of thinking, we know how we interpret things. Sometimes we understand how we interpret things. But taking the time to allow for us to see things through someone else's eyes, to experience things as someone else would, it takes an added effort. And I think it would do us a world of a difference if we would all be able to work on this. But I think, you can't fix the world. You can only work on yourself. So the most important thing is that, especially when you find yourself, I think it uses the example of understanding the ramifications of your actions, especially when you're thinking of what you're going to do. You have to allow yourself to broaden that perspective. It's like blinders, you put blinders on just how I see things, and if you just remove even one, you have a far broader perspective as to what you are seeing in front of you. And that's such a key thing for us to work on.
Yeah, and I think that it's especially relevant when you do get into situations of like conflict or tense situations, because that's often times a lot of the reason why those situations don't resolve themselves, because one person sticks to their position, the other person sticks to theirs, and they sort of refuse to make concessions or see it from the other person's perspective. And they're like, oh well, I feel this way,
so
and I'm just gonna exactly. So and then nothing gets solved.
Yeah, well, experience teaches you that that's really the wrong approach.
Yep.
But those are lessons we learn with time. All right, but we gotta keep things moving, and it's time for us to find out about our weather. And we have Francisca on the line. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to you guys.
How are you today?
I am bright like the sun, like the day, I should say.
I know, and those days are starting so early too.
That's right, you noticed?
Of course, I'm an early bird. All right, so tell us what we can expect for today.
Okay, well, we continue to see generally fair weather. We'll see lots of sunshine today. We'll have partly cloudy skies tonight, and only isolated showers around the country.
Okay, and what about our winds?
Okay, we'll continue to be out of the east, 5 to 15 knots, and producing light chop seas.
Okay, Let's talk about the temperatures for today. What are the highs looking like?
Okay, along the coast, 88 Fahrenheit, inland 96, and the Maya Mountains 82. We want to be there, right?
Oh yeah.
Tonight, 80 along the coast, 73 inland, and 66 up in the Maya Mountains.
Yep. And what does our outlook look like as we head into Wednesday?
Okay, so we'll continue to see a similar trend Wednesday, I would say, through to the end of the week.
Okay, and Francisca, as Marlene mentioned earlier, today is June 1st. It's the start of the hurricane season. What are we looking at? Anything that's happening right now?
Okay, so this will be our first tropical weather outlook, and for the next 48 hours, we're seeing no development around the area. That would be the North Atlantic, the Caribbean Sea, or the Gulf of Mexico.
Okay, well, that's certainly good news for right now.
That's right.
All right. Well, Francisca, thank you so much for giving us that weather update.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All right.
All right,
Have a great day.
Have a great day.
You too, thanks. Same to you.
Yes. So there you have it. Bright, sunny day ahead.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Yep, but of course we do have to get started with our show, and we have a lot of interesting conversations lined up for this morning. And you know, as I was saying a bit earlier, as the teachers' strike is currently put on pause, part of that is due to some of the concessions that the government has made. One of the major ones is that there was the introduction of certain good governance legislation, and we are actually going to be getting an update from the Attorney General of Belize, Honorable Magali Marin Young, Senior Counsel, and she'll be discussing some of the new legislation as well as some other relevant legal issues this morning.
All right, and the second part of our show, as we focus on the upcoming Atlantic hurricane season, we talk with representatives of the City Emergency Management Organization to find out how they're making preparations here in Belize City.
And finally, it is June 1st also marks another special day. It is International Milk Day, and we are going to be getting an update from Batamdala, and they're going to be telling us all about their promotions that they are going to be having on milk. So that's going to be our final conversation for this morning.
All right, and with that, we are going to go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, we'll be joined by the Attorney General of Belize, Magali Marin Young.
That's the sound of fuel efficiency. Every day, every time, I choose Una Fuels, powered with Dynamax. Una, a brand committed with the future.
It's a fact that with Smart, you get truly unlimited everything. Only with Smart, you get unlimited data anytime. While with the other guy, it's only double data on weekends. With unlimited data every day with Smart, there's no need to wait. So, it's a fact that our unlimited plans beat the competition. Stop being measured and told when to use your data and get unlimited talk, text, and data. Experience the true unlimited plans with Smart. That's a fact. Make the switch and live smart.
Good morning, students. Time for school.
Are you a teacher or public sector employee who is thinking of owning your new home? Get the keys to your new home with Belize Bank's all-inclusive mortgage, the best financing option in Belize for your new home purchase or construction. Inclusive of all mortgage-related fees, no down payment, affordable terms, amazingly low interest rates. Visit our nearest branch to speak to one of our financial advisors to discuss how you can be one step closer to owning your new home. Some conditions apply.
With the touch of a finger, we can easily unlock our phones and securely gain access to our data. This technology is called biometrics, and the Social Security Board is introducing fingerprint recognition to make transactions and handling of your sensitive data secure, fast, accurate, and convenient. Is your identity safe? Fingerprint recognition will keep your social security record secure and confidential while making your access fast and easy. It protects your identity. Is your name a common one? Fingerprint recognition uses your unique characteristics, ensuring your hard-earned benefits go directly to you, the rightful owner. Tired of all the paperwork? Fingerprinting makes this hassle-free. Your convenience and your information security is our priority. Fingerprint recognition coming soon. Social Security at your fingertips.
Are back, and if you are joining us right now, we are just getting our first conversation for this morning started. And as we said before the break, our first conversation this morning is going to be with the Honorable Magali Marin Young, Senior Counsel, the Attorney General of Belize. And we are going to be discussing a lot of the relevant legal issues this morning. Attorney General, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Gavin. Good morning, Marlene.
Yes. It's great to have you. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. How are you doing so early?
I'm good, thank you.
Yep. All right. And, you know, over the past few weeks, of course, the people have been observing the negotiations between the government and the unions. And one of the biggest points of contention between the governments and the union was the good governance legislation. And in response to some of the union's requests, we have seen the introduction of certain draft legislation that has been submitted from the government. And why don't we start with talking about let's talk about the circumstances which brought that about, because of course the PUP did run on good governance as a platform, and it did promise this legislation, but it seems that the timeline was the issue. And of course, so let's start there and talk about how it was that we're able to produce these draft legislations in a much shorter time frame than perhaps what was originally anticipated by the government.
Well, let me firstly say that, you know, it was always part of Plan Belize to introduce a whistleblowers legislation and a civil asset recovery and an explained wealth order legislation. But let me also say that from day one, we started out our first House meeting, we introduced good governance legislation. And I want to harken back to the Public Contracts Commission bill, which is, I am told, still tied up in the Senate, but that is a good governance legislation. And so I just want to say that, you know, one of the first pieces of legislation that was introduced by this administration was a good governance legislation. And I don't know why it's still tied up in the Senate, but I want to say that, look, we have to get going with that piece of legislation. I know the Office of the Contractor General felt threatened by the introduction of that legislation, but let's be honest and look at the last 13 years. The Office of the Contractor General has not stopped nor curbed corruption and the award of bloated contracts. What that bill sought to do was introduce a Public Contracts Commission that would include not only a member from the opposition, but also the social partners to supervise the award of contracts and also to investigate the award of contracts. So from day one, we started out introducing good governance legislation. I have shared publicly that we do have a resource problem we are understaffed in the legal drafting unit. And so there is legislative demand from every single ministry, the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of the Environment. And so the unit has to be juggling various legislative demands from the various ministries. On top of that, we have to keep amending and varying COVID regulations as the policies change from depending on the Ministry of Health's requirements. So it's not for want of wanting to introduce good governance legislation. We do have resource limitation in that we are understaffed. Yeah. And I want to give a shout out to the legal drafting unit in respect to 2 new legislation that they have drafted. And the unions and the agitation by the unions provided an impetus. We had to put other legislation on the back burner, other legislative demands on the back burner, and prioritize. So we have the legal drafting unit has produced 2 new legislation. One was introduced this Friday and one was deferred. The one that was introduced on Friday is what is commonly known as the whistleblowers legislation. It is called the Protective Disclosures Bill 2021. And the one that was deferred was the Civil Asset Recovery and Unexplained Wealth Order legislation bill. And that was deferred because there are some policy and financial considerations that we need to resolve as a government in consultation with stakeholders on how we will structure that particular piece of legislation. But the one that was introduced on Friday was the whistleblowers. And if you wish me to
before we dive into it, yes, before we dive into it, one of the questions I had, and I understand the explanation of how you were able to put together the draft, because the demand was there for it to be expedited. But the question I have is that the Whistleblowers Act, we call it the Protected Disclosures Bill at this point, is not uncommon in other countries. And it was a part of the suggestion made by stakeholders a long time ago to simply use existing legislation, whether from the region or other places where it's been effectively used, and create it and Belizeanize it, for lack of a better term. What would you say are some of the acts that perhaps were used as a part of creating our own Protected Disclosures Bill?
Well, there was certainly a comparative analysis. The legal drafting unit engaged in a comparative analysis and used model legislation and tailored it to Belize, because we just can't import a foreign piece of legislation and need to make sure it fits with all the different government units that we have that may be unique to Belize as opposed to other jurisdictions. So it was modeled after it was drafted based on model legislation, for one, and so that provided some ease of reference for the legal drafting unit to work with. And they were able to work swiftly on that piece of legislation, and also study the success and failures of other pieces of legislation to come up with this draft.
Yes.
Because several countries in the Commonwealth have some version of what whistleblowers legislation.
Yeah. Now, the idea behind protected disclosure is that it would help to minimize corruption. In other words, people who witness and even people who participate in some sort of corrupt act can then come out and disclose what is going on and be protected. Is that kind of the summary of what it allows to take place?
Yes, in a nutshell, it provides a mechanism for the disclosure of information in relation to any improper conduct within a private company and within government. So it's not only limited to government affairs, it also applies to private companies. So it provides a mechanism, and in addition to that, it protects the person who's making the disclosure from any kind of retaliation as a result of that disclosure. And it protects their identity as well.
Okay. So let's talk about the details of the existing bill that has been introduced.
So the existing bill, as I said, provides a mechanism, but it also obliges an employer to appoint a whistleblower reporting officer within the organization. It also obliges the employer to provide a procedure for the reporting of improper conduct within a company or a government department. In addition to a whistleblower, protective disclosure reporting officer, there is also within government certain designated authorities who are named in the bill and who are obligated to set up a unit, a whistleblowers unit, if you will, for information to be channeled to that designated authority. So, for example, I don't know if you have a copy of the bill, but there's a schedule to the bill. And the named designated authorities are the Office of the Auditor General, the Belize Tax Service, the Belize Bureau of Standards, Central Bank of Belize, Customs and Excise Department, Elections and Boundaries, the FIU, Financial Intelligence Unit, the Integrity Commission of Belize, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, the Office of the Ombudsman, the Belize Police Department, the Attorney General's Ministry, and the Belize Chamber of Commerce, and also the Belize Business Bureau. So these are designated authorities for disclosure to be channeled by a whistleblower's authority. So let me just recap.
Yes.
There is a mechanism within a private employment or a government department for internal disclosure of improper conduct.
Yes.
There is also a mechanism, if you're not comfortable with the internal disclosure, there is also a mechanism for what is called an external disclosure. Yeah. And the external disclosure is made to the whistleblowing unit by these designated authorities, which I just listed.
Yes.
All right. So you go ahead. Sorry.
Is the legislation set up in a way? Very often there are protocols that must be followed, and is it set up in a way where you must file your first disclosure with the internal system and then move up to one of these public institutions?
No, you could do it internally. And you could choose for your own reason, just if, you may be afraid that if you disclose it, it'll be cover up. You could then disclose it externally.
Okay. Now, the question I have when I think of protected disclosure, the key word there is the protection. And in a small country like Belize, we know that that's one of the most challenging things to be able to maintain. What's built into the bill to help to allow for some trust that people feel they can disclose whatever improper conduct they may see in a private institution or public institution and feel that sense of protection?
So you cannot make an anonymous disclosure, and that's because we have to have a source, an identified source, all right? But the bill protects the person making the disclosure, protects their identity from being disclosed. The person could choose not to disclose their identity or could ask that their identity be shielded from public scrutiny. But there has to be an identity of a person making the disclosure. All right, you have to have a source. So it's not like the 911 or the, where you could anonymous. Yes, because we have to be able to identify the source, that it's a credible source, or if you have information, documentary evidence that, you know, it's a credible source. And it obliges the whistleblowing reporting officer or the whistleblowing unit from the designated authorities to keep the identity of that person confidential.
And I'm sure that a lot of our viewers would also be interested to know sort of what happens after the disclosure is made, and what is the scope for things like investigation and follow-up actions.
So once the information is disclosed, and it's protected disclosure information, the reporting officer has a duty to not just sit on the information. The reporting officer has to further the information, and has a time period, within a reasonable time period, has to forward that information to a designated authority to investigate whether there is any improper conduct in relation to the information disclosed. All right, so it's not just you disclose, it then requires that the information be furthered on for further investigation if there is reasonable suspicion that some improper conduct took place. And then the designated authority within themselves can also, among themselves, refer information. So Central Bank, FIU could share information as between their whistleblowing reporting unit, all with a view to assist in an investigation of an improper conduct.
And what about the amount of evidence that one has to provide as the person who is the whistleblower?
Well, you provide what evidence you have on hand. It might not be the smoking gun. It might be circumstantial evidence that could perhaps cue in some other designating authority to investigate the tax records or the business affairs of some person or government official in greater detail. All right, so there's no threshold in terms of what you are required. If you believe that this information would be helpful, and this information discloses, or perhaps discloses, you believe that the information will lead to the disclosure of or investigation of some improper conduct that has been committed, is about to be committed, you disclose. So there is no threshold, there is no requirement in terms of, you know, what is the
amount of proof you have to bring.
Correct. Because, I mean, you can put together a case with documentary evidence on a piecemeal basis. No? So one unit might have, the tax department may have some information, another unit may have, and you might just have the piece that puts it together. So once you believe that there is some information that could be helpful, or that some information in relation to an improper conduct, you can disclose.
Now, just to go back to the point made earlier about anonymous disclosure, was that considered in drafting the bill?
So, well, the identity of the person can choose to have their identity disclosed within the reporting of the information disclosed, or you could choose to ask that your name remain anonymous. All right, so there is that protection as well, but there has to be a source.
So in the documentation of the disclosure, you may be anonymous, but you would have to be known at least to what you call the designated authority, the unit or the person who is responsible for collecting these forms of disclosures.
Correct. And what this bill does, it protects the person making the disclosure from any kind of retaliation. In fact, the person can actually get an injunction if disciplinary action is about to be taken. This person can also seek damages in relation, if they suffer any prejudice, lose their job, they can go to the Supreme Court for, a remedy to compensate for whatever retaliation or to stop any retaliation that's about to happen.
And I suppose, I was going to shift gears since we have been sort of bringing up the topic of, consequences for such a disclosure, because that sort of introduces the topic of the other bill, which it talks about asset recovery and unexplained wealth. Can you describe sort of the main features of that legislation?
So I need to be very clear that is the legal drafting unit came up with a working draft piece of legislation. There has to be widespread consultation in relation to this particular bill. There also has to be some policy considerations and financial considerations that the government has to consider. So I need to put that into context. Okay. So that the draft bill that you have before you or that may have been shared with you is a working draft. In other words, it's not the final product that is going to be introduced into the House. It is to signal that we're serious about this, we're thinking of going this way, but we have some policy consideration. So what this bill, in a nutshell, this bill has two components. One is the civil asset recovery aspect of the bill. And what the bill does, it creates an agency with corporate soul, as we say in law. It has a corporate character. And this unit is able to pursue the proceeds or instrumentalities of crime. So that, as you know, the motive for all crimes is rarely money or, some personal retaliation. But in terms of money laundering, acts of corruption, and so forth, rarely the motive is money. And so what this bill does, it targets the proceeds with a view to combat and prevent acts of corruption and money laundering. Yes. So what it does, it enhances our current legislation, or Money Laundering and Terrorism Prevention Act. It complements it because this bill allows the forfeiture of the proceeds of crime, and it reduces the threshold so that you are able to forfeit on a balance of probabilities. And I will explain why this bill is structured this way and why other jurisdictions have felt it necessary to introduce similar piece of legislation in their country. Too often times we live in a world where you can take you can get an airplane ticket, or you can abscond from a jurisdiction, fly out of the country. And you may then be able to, the director of public prosecutions may be unable to prosecute you because you are somewhere in Siberia. And so, and we don't have an MLAT or the like with Siberia. So we cannot, ask for assistance to have you, the authorities in Russia, direct that, you be returned to Belize for prosecution. So in situations like that, the proceeds of crime, you may leave behind a bank account, you may leave behind real property, you may leave behind shares in a company. And so the DPP has sufficient evidence to believe that a crime was committed and these assets are the proceeds of crime or the instrumentalities of crime, and approach the court for an injunction and ultimately to restrain the disposition of the asset while she tries to prosecute you. And she can, if there is sufficient evidence, she can move the court for what is called a forfeiture order to have it vest in the civil asset management unit. So even though, and too many times persons are abscond and they are beyond the reach of the law and get away, meantime they're living off these assets. So what the bill does, it targets the proceeds of crime even though you may be beyond the reach of the law, or you may have died and the DPP was unable to successfully prosecute you because you're no longer alive. So it targets the proceeds of crime in situations where the person may be beyond reach, where the DPP is unable to successfully prosecute them. They've absconded, passed away, different scenarios. All right?
Yes. So looking, and this is a critical part of this legislation when you talk about the unit itself that has to be established. Let's get a bit more into that, because as you noted with the Protected Disclosure Bill, similarly this draft includes setting up an additional institution that will kind of be the filter for the execution of whether it's civil asset recovery or tackling unexplained wealth.
Yes, so that's one of the policy considerations right now. As you know, under the Money Laundering and Terrorism Prevention Bill, we have what is called a Financial Intelligence Unit.
Yes.
And that Financial Intelligence Unit is created by a separate piece of legislation, has corporate soul, and is primarily charged with investigating crimes relating to money laundering and terrorism. So one of the policy considerations for the government, because as you know, the government is facing serious fiscal crises and fiscal imbalance. And one of the questions for us that we have to decide whether we're going to create an independent unit, the Civil Asset Recovery Unit, or we will seek to merge that unit with the FIU that has some experience in investigating crimes and the proceeds of crime. So that's a policy consideration that as a government we need to make, because the setting up of this unit has financial implications. The legislation will create a fund that will finance this unit so that this unit operates independent of the different arms of government. It will have its own fund for its own budget. And you will have to have persons, you'll have to appoint attorneys, accountants, who can move the court, who can sift through banking and financial evidence, and investigators for purposes of pursuing the proceeds of crime. So yes. That's right now I am to meet with the director of the Financial Intelligence Unit, and ultimately Cabinet will decide whether we have the funds to create a separate unit or we will have a merger. That decision is still something that we need to take. But
so
that
may be a subunit of FIU, or it may be a separate entity.
Correct. So that's a policy decision yet to be taken. We have to consult widely on this, and we also have to look at the financial implications.
Mm-hmm. And let's talk about the role of the property manager.
So the bill also contemplates you will have a trustee that manages the assets while it is under a restraining order. And also that will, if you have a forfeiture order, you sell the property. So you have a property manager per se.
Okay.
All right, that manages and safeguards the property until the court makes a final order of realizing the asset or returning it or releasing a portion to some third party, etc. So it contemplates a property manager that's appointed by the Governor General on the advice of the Judicial and Legal Services Commission. Yes. But there's an important aspect of the bill which, in addition to civil asset recovery, there is the unexplained wealth order aspect, which is an important evidence-enhancing mechanism. Too oftentimes, we know somebody, we suspect someone may be engaged in corrupt acts or in drug trafficking. We see a lifestyle that is, far beyond their income, but we are unable to prove, to prove that they are engaged in drug trafficking or that they're engaged in corrupt practice because they deal in cash, for example. So you can't trace them through the banking system, but they may own a 5-story high-rise luxurious apartment complex, which does not correlate to that person's income. Yeah. And so the unexplained wealth order aspect of the bill creates a jurisdiction to enable the court to make an order on a preliminary basis, and that preliminary order can then be made final, to have that person disclose and explain, as a word,
yes,
explain to the court, how is it that you're able to acquire this 5-story luxurious apartment complex? And so it puts the onus on the person to make a full disclosure to the court. How is it that they are able to acquire and finance such a building? And that's an important jurisdiction. That's an important evidence gathering mechanism that will help. So it also enhances the civil asset recovery aspect, and it enhances the anti-money laundering investigations as well. Yeah. So it's an important component of this bill,
I guess, shifts what, because the FIU, for example, could have investigated people who had some form of unexplained wealth. What this seems to do is kind of shift the burden of proof. It's proof to us how you have these assets versus continuous investigation and trying to figure out how someone is able to amass all that they have.
Well, you see, the FIU is limited because the FIU has to sift through banking wires and banking, that information, financial information that goes through the banking system. And, many times people engage in corrupt practices or drug trafficking do not operate through the banking system. Yeah. They work with cash. And it's easy to launder money in construction when you work in cash, or, you may acquire assets with cash. So what this does, we see that you own this 5-story luxurious building. You need to tell us you're only earning $24,000 per annum. How is it that you're able to acquire this 5 to 10 million property within such a short period of time. Show us your loan document, show us your financials to justify, and you know.
And if you have the proof, then you'd be cleared, I guess.
Yes, but if you're unable to satisfactorily explain, then a final order is made, and that final order makes you have to account for the difference in your income with the value of that asset. And by accounting, it means that you have to, in a sense, pay back to the public authority or the difference in the value of that asset versus what the court is able to compute would be your income over the period of time.
And how are these persons identified? You know, in the case of a building, of course, you can see the construction work going on. But let's say, you know, someone has a neighbor where they realize and they can witness the firsthand lifestyle that they're having. How do you decide who will be served with this notice to prove this unexplained wealth?
As the bill is currently drafted, it's the designated authorities who identify. So perhaps the director of tax service sees a taxpayer, you know, owning a high rise, and based on the tax information before her, she just can't see how they could afford it. She can then approach the court to apply for an unexplained wealth order. All right, so it's the designated authorities under the bill, and if you have the bill before you, well, in this case, the bill specifically names those persons. I think the Controller of Customs,
Commissioner of Police.
Commissioner of Police, yes. So the bill as it's currently drafted names these persons. It is possible that instead of having these individuals, we have an independent person moving the court instead of these designated authorities. I call them designated authorities, but I don't want to conflate that name with the designated authorities under the Protected Disclosures Bill.
Well, it would take a lot of initiative, one would think, for the commissioner, the comptroller, or the director of the tax service to be constantly monitoring persons who are showcasing a level of wealth that just can't be comprehended. So perhaps some kind of reporting mechanism. Do you foresee that this is where the Protected Disclosure Bill can perhaps complement things like the unexplained wealth?
Yes, as I explained to you, they all work together. And there is another aspect too. So the Protective Disclosures Bill, the director may be provided with information. Look, taxpayer A owns this 5-rise building, and he works as a clerk. You know, you may want to investigate this, and then the director of tax service would have a duty, a statutory duty to investigate and take further steps. All right? Yes. But importantly, these bills all complement each other. So Belize has signed several mutual legal assistance treaties with several countries. We also have CMLAT with CARICOM countries as well. So what this does, if, for example, the person, and we've seen this in this jurisdiction, may own an asset using offshore companies in St. Lucia or, you know, Anguilla or Dominica, we can enforce these orders and gather information through the CMLAT. Similarly, we have a mutual legal assistance treaty with Taiwan and with the US. And so we can use that mechanism to gather information or to get disclosure or to enforce any forfeiture order that's made under the Civil Asset Recovery bill, and so forth. So they all work together, and that's why in drafting it, we had to ensure that they are in tandem with each other. All right, I can tell you that the first draft of the Civil Asset Recovery and Unexplained Wealth Bill was modeled after the Trinidad model. Yes. In the region, we have 4 countries that have a similar piece of legislation. Guyana does, Trinidad does, Antigua and Barbuda does. And there are 3 already, and we would be the 4th jurisdiction in the region to implement a civil asset recovery bill.
Have any of them used it? Successfully used it?
Trinidad has recently introduced theirs. I have not reached out to my counterpart in Trinidad to see their successes, but in the rush to get the bill out or to have a semblance of it, we do intend to consult widely, and I do intend to reach out to my counterpart in Trinidad to see the success rate in relation, especially since as it presently is, the working draft is modeled after Trinidad.
Okay. Now, how there are many people who will hear the explanation of these bills and a few who will actually read them and be able to go through them and say, this is just going to be another great document that we have that's not going to do anything to change the existing system that we have. And we know in the cries for the legislation, there is much talk about looking at people who have been involved in government systems before, the wealth they may have amassed. But let's look at what does exist. We have things like the Integrity Commission that should catch some of these issues before we would need even an unexplained wealth bill. How do you differentiate that these bills will be strong enough, and these laws, when they're eventually passed, will be strong enough to actually curb the corruption that we know exists in the country?
Well, these bills provide evidence-enhancing mechanisms, all right? So the Protective Disclosure Bill and the Unexplained Wealth aspect of the Civil Asset Recovery and Unexplained Wealth Order Bill provide evidence-enhancing mechanism. Okay. Right now, the Prevention of Corruption Act just provides for disclosure and limited repercussions if you do. What this does is enable the designated authorities to force you to disclose further information. It allows somebody in a government department or in a private employment setting to disclose information that may assist. So these seek to enhance the prosecution of corrupt practices and corruption and money laundering, etc. It provides an additional jurisdiction to the court, whereas you're unable to go after somebody's proceeds of crime because they've absconded from the jurisdiction. You can't successfully prosecute them. It enables the local authorities to pursue that person's assets where it hurts most, because the whole, the reason for committing the crime in the first place is to get their hands on money or some asset. Yeah. So you really attack where it hurts, which is in fact the proceeds of crime. And then the MLAT allows you to pursue assets outside the jurisdiction, enforce any forfeiture order outside the jurisdiction. So these bills add additional mechanisms, jurisdictions, if you will, that will enable public authorities, the DPP, the designated authorities, the Office of the Attorney General to pursue persons and target the proceeds of crime with a view to preventing the commission of crime or stemming corruption.
Yes. Let's go back to the Protected Disclosure Bill for a moment. And one of the things I'd like to get in is the definition of what can be reported, what is considered improper conduct.
Well, improper conduct is anything that you believe is suspicious. I mean, we're dealing with lay people here. We're not dealing with trained investigators who will be making this kind of disclosure. So, if you believe that, your employer is not reporting taxes because you have these receipts in your possession and it doesn't match up to what is being reported in your GST reports or what the forms that you submit monthly, you can disclose that.
Okay.
And you can disclose it either internally. Of course, the retaliation may be swift and you, by the time you go to court, you may have been, the person's security may be in jeopardy, or you can report it externally to the Director of Tax Services yourself. And so your question is really, for lay people, it's anything you believe that, a crime may have been committed, somebody is not reporting what they should do on the reporting taxes, or this information discloses who really owns this, or you see this person constantly bringing in cash for the rental of some building that's not owned by your employer, but this person consistently does so. That may be a hint that this person may just be a conduit or a trustee, a nominee, collecting the proceeds of rent because there is some, the person is hiding assets, etc. So there is no formula per se. If you have reason to believe that, there is something suspicious, and this may in fact constitute, or the employer or person in the department is involved in some illegal or improper conduct.
Which is why the opening that you had in looking at persons who are designated to receive the report would be important, right? Let me ask another question. For the person who discloses themselves, does it matter if they were aware for a long time, were involved in the process, or does it have to be somebody who is completely unaligned with whatever corrupt act they're reporting or illegal act?
Well, it's not, if you're involved, it's not considered protected disclosure. And what that means is that you do not enjoy immunity. You cannot go to the court and get an injunction. You cannot get a court to seek damages. It means that you don't enjoy the protection. It doesn't stop you from disclosing the information, and you may be able to plead some mitigation with the DPP and so forth, but it doesn't protect your identity. And you're not afforded the same protection if you're an accomplice or you have participated in this activity. But again, that doesn't mean that you don't have some, you can plea mitigation. I mean, I'm not a criminal law practitioner, but you can, advance a case for mitigation in terms of any penalties that you may be visited upon the DPP successfully proving a case, etc., where you're involved in.
And beyond the protection for the person who discloses themselves, is there protection for family members as well?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the spouse or the children who may work or be in the same institution, they're also protected from any kind of victimization that may come as a result of the disclosure.
So you can get an injunction. Mm-hmm. That's a very wide question, because you can argue, well, there is the remedies part under the bill, under Section 20 of the Protective Disclosure, a whistleblower who believes there is detrimental action taken against him in breach can get an order, an injunction, or get some relief.
Okay.
So it's, back to the question, it's, let me correct myself, the protection is afforded to the whistleblower. So you can get an injunction, a whistleblower, in terms of any retaliatory action within the place of employment, or you can recover damages if you lose your job, or there are some disciplinary proceedings, etc., being taken in relation to you.
Okay.
So
now,
the protection is to the whistleblower, not whistleblower and
extensions.
family. This is not, let's not confuse this with witness protection.
Witness, I know.
Yes.
Well, I mean, these are all concerns that people have anytime they step forward. We've witnessed time and time again where, you know, someone becomes vocal on an issue and them and their whole family get dragged into the mud and may be victims of some kind of persecution. But I'd like to ask, as we're quickly running out of time, from your perspective, Attorney General, how do you think that the implementation or the rollout of these legislations will impact the good governance movement that has been promoted by the current administration?
So good governance is not a, you know, is going to take a while for us to successfully, to see any measure of success. All these measures do not amount to a light switch. You enact them and automatically you eliminate corruption. Good governance, they all work together. We have to establish the Civil Asset Recovery Unit. We have to train, inform people. But, you know, they serve as a deterrent. A successful prosecution of any persons engaged in corrupt practice serves as a deterrent, or should serve as a deterrent against acts of corruption. But it also, we need to, and that's why good governance is, we have to adopt a culture of complying with laws. And this is not only for public officials, this is also for the citizenry. I think the minister responsible for the public service, constitutional and political reform has signed MOUs with Galen University and I believe University of Belize to introduce good governance curriculum for public officers. So it means developing or strengthening a culture of complying with laws. We have to get back to being law-abiding citizens. Corruption will only be eliminated if we as a citizen demand it, and we, the citizens, also live up to it. So, as I said, when we're in the lines, you know, clearing the border, coming through the airport, we're not expecting a blight from a public officer or choose which customs officer we'll go to because that one might be, you know, my friend, and this one, you know, will dig up my suitcase. It also depends on us, the citizen, to comply with laws and to also not engage in acts of corruption. So it's not a light switch. These mechanisms will enable the prosecution of corrupt acts and also target the proceeds of crime and corrupt acts. But we have to get back to the principles of the rule of law. We have to get back to the principles that, you know, we will not, you know, also be part of the corrupt practice. Pay somebody to expedite ahead of Joe Black at the back. You know, it's all of us engaged in a culture of being law-abiding citizens. We have to get back to this. If not, we will just lose any sense of decency and you know, nationhood and rule of law in this country.
Yes.
And quickly before we close, we had started we started this conversation sort of in the context of the weeks of agitation by the unions who were demanding that this type of legislation should be passed and be passed, now. But as you're probably aware, the BNTU at least has put their strike on hold, and in their release has stated that now, and I'm quoting from the release, they said that they're going to take their fight to the courts. And I'm wondering if before we close, if you had any brief comments or anything to make on that end just before we close.
But is it that they're going to challenge what will they take to the court? Their fight in relation to salary reduction? Sorry, Gavin, I didn't see the release. Or is it that you can't force a government, there is separation of powers, and the court can't force the legislative body to enact these things now. So if it is that they're after, we live in a country where the supreme law is the Constitution, and one of the underlying principles is the separation of powers. So I'm not sure that we could agitate or force a government. I can tell you that the government is fully committed. It is simply a matter of lack of resources right now, given the fiscal crises and given the fact that the legal drafting unit is under pressure. So I don't know in what they'll take their fights to the court. It could be that they will challenge the decision to reduce the salary that was taken in the wider public interest.
Yeah, their report didn't specify what it was, but I was just wondering if there was any sort of comment. But thank you, of course, for those that you did make, and of course, where that situation goes, we'll be monitoring as well. But Honorable Attorney General, we're just about out of time, so we want to say thank you for joining us this morning and shedding some light on the new legislation and your views on several of the legal issues which everybody's talking about.
Thank you too for allowing me an opportunity to explain the government initiatives and these bills that the government is working on.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you very much, and continue to stay safe.
All right, you do too.
And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we're going to be talking about Belize City preparations for the upcoming hurricane season. So please, stay tuned.
Working off-site doesn't mean you have to be off your game. Studies have shown that simply adding a keyboard and mouse to your laptop increases productivity by 26%. Add a monitor and you'll be 35% more productive. At Fulltech Systems, we have what you need to enhance your remote work or e-learning experience. With devices such as headsets, video conferencing monitors, webcams, keyboards, mice, docking stations, all with the brands you trust. Keep connected with collaboration tools like Microsoft 365 Suite and Kaspersky and perform efficiently no matter where you are. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
As one of the largest cable and internet providers in Belize, CBC strives to provide our customers with the highest standards of quality, value, and service in all aspects of cable TV and internet. Monitoring our systems closely, our technicians combine creative planning and state-of-the-art technology with years of experience and training to develop and provide the most reliable and advanced cable and internet service to exceed your expectations. For CBC and our team of talented engineers, technicians, and customer service representatives, delivering less than the very best is never an option.
continues to expand its internet coverage countrywide to help you live a smarter life.
Our villagers are very happy. They are pleased to know that Smart went the extra mile to put a tower in our village so that our villagers can get live stream on their TVs and they can get their kids doing their online classes. I want to say to Smart, thank you for making it possible for us to get internet in Gardenia Village. We really do appreciate it.
Smart continues to take the internet and mobile services to communities across Belize. Now save even more when you bundle your Smart broadband with Smart mobile services. Smart, bringing people together.
Hola, Tony.
Hey, Kevin, ¿qué onda? ¿Qué pasa?
Nada, le vine a buscar porque necesito comprar más mercancías de vasos y platos desechables para mi tienda de comestible. Me estoy quedando sin esas cosas.
No, hombre, fíjate que desde el 15 de abril no puedo importar nada de eso. Y se me acaba de terminar todo lo que tenía hace como 3 semanas.
Oye, pero nunca has estado sin esas cosas. ¿Qué está pasando?
Mira esto. Esta es la nueva ley que prohíbe todo el uso de plásticos no reutilizables. Esos son vasos, platos, cucharas, tenedores, todo eso. Desde 15 de abril de este año no he podido importar nada de eso. A partir del 15 de enero del 2021 nadie puede fabricarlo. 15 de abril 2021 nadie lo puede vender. Y a partir del 14 de julio del 2021 si alguien te agarra con eso, te multan.
Híjole, no sabía eso. Necesito cambiar algunas cosas. Les diré a mis clientes por qué esas cosas ya no están disponibles. Gracias, Antonio.
Así es, cuídate.
With the touch of a finger, we can easily unlock our phones and securely gain access to our data. This technology is called biometrics, and the Social Security Board is introducing fingerprint recognition to make transactions and handling of your sensitive data secure, fast, accurate, and convenient. Is your identity safe? Fingerprint recognition will keep your Social Security record secure and confidential while making your access fast and easy. It protects your identity. Is your name a common one? Fingerprint recognition uses your unique characteristics, ensuring your hard-earned benefits go directly to you, the rightful owner. Tired of all the paperwork? Fingerprinting makes this hassle-free. Your convenience and your information security is our priority. Fingerprint recognition coming soon. Social Security at your fingertips.
Good morning, sweetie. It's time for school.
Are you a teacher or public sector employee who is thinking of owning your new home? Get the keys to your new home with Belize Bank's all-inclusive mortgage, the best financing option in Belize for your new home purchase or construction. Inclusive of all mortgage-related fees, no down payment, affordable terms, amazingly low interest rates. Visit our nearest branch to speak to one of our financial advisors to discuss how you can be one step closer to owning your new home. Some conditions apply.
It's a fact that with Smart, you get truly unlimited everything. Only with Smart, you get unlimited data anytime. While with the other guy, it's only double data on weekends. With unlimited data every day with Smart, there's no need to wait. So, it's a fact that our unlimited plans beat the competition. Stop being measured and told when to use your data and get unlimited talk, text, and data. Experience the true unlimited plans with Smart. That's a fact. Make the switch and live smart.
welcome back. And we're moving into our second conversation for today, where we find out more about this Belize City's plans for the 2021 hurricane season. We're joined at this time by Natasha Pipersberg, who is the counselor with responsibility for CMO, and Melanie Dawson, the CMO liaison officer. Good morning.
Good morning, guys.
And thank you for joining us. Of course, it's June 1st, and while we can look at the fresh month ahead, it is a time where we must be absolutely prepared for the season that's to come. Let's start off with Councillor Pipersberg, talking about you getting indoctrinated in the responsibility that you have as the counselor with the responsibility for CMO.
Yes. Marlene, first of all, I just want to say once again, good morning to you guys. Thank you guys for inviting us to be on the show. Like you did mention, it is the start of the hurricane season, and this is when basically CMA steps forward. I can honestly say that they've been working throughout the year, so it's not that CMA is just a seasonal type of gig, no, but they've been very, very active. I must also give much accolades to Melanie Dawson, who's also here on the show with us, because she's the one who's actually been taking charge of this, who's been taking the lead. And for the most part, she's the one who's actually been educating me. So I just need once again to say thank you so much, Melanie. Welcome, Mr. Hyde as well. But CMA has been very active, like I mentioned, throughout the year. They've been doing the continuous preparations. Like, for example, we do have our daily CMA meetings. Just recently in February, there was the shelter inspection that was done. So like I stated, I believe that we are ready, and with the help of the wonderful CMA team, we are definitely prepared.
Yes. Now, of course, Melanie, a part of the preparations, it's looking at some of the things that Councillor Pipersberg outlined, which includes shelter management, but it's also preparing the physical infrastructure of the city for what will be the rainy season, as well as the possibility of threat of storm. Let's talk about that. How far are we in looking at things like drainage, in maintenance, in some of the possible projectiles that may be around the city?
All right. Well, hi. Good morning again, Marlene.
Good morning. Yeah.
When it comes to drainage and preparations in the city on a whole, drainages had begun from also the beginning of the year. This is carried out by our sanitation team. We've basically hit the areas that we saw was a problem with the two storms that came last year. So one of the areas that was a problem is the Belama area. So we did drainages in that area, Belama phase 3, 4, and what they're stating, we now have a 5 in the Jane Usher community, a portion of St. Martin's. We did drainage in Mesopotamia, just to be specific, Alembe, King Street, Euphrates, West Street, Tigris Street, Barbers Road as well. Sunray, this is on the north side. Sunrise, Durgeon Drive. We've also did drainage in the outlets of Seashore Drive and Lizaraga Avenue. This is in the Kings Park area. And the work actually continues, Marlene. So drainage is one of our big task that we have been dealing with throughout the beginning of the hurricane season.
Okay, so that's one aspect that you're looking at. Let's talk about some of the other things that you have been working, whether as the council or as the council encouraging residents to do to prepare for the season.
All right. Well, when it comes to preparations, we firstly begin with our staff here at the council. We need to have our staff prepared to respond in times of disaster. So basically our staff will help our residents in the city. And just to list a few things that CIMA has been working on, well, the council, like Councillor mentioned, we have our daily CIMA meetings. And just to mention, we work closely along with NEMA because remember, we are basically like an umbrella. We work under NEMA. Yes. And with their help, there is a lot that has been done in the city. We've vetted our hurricane plan. This is basically a guide to take us through any type of disaster. We have done a lot of trainings, and the trainings is basically what keeps us on top and on par of how to respond in times of disaster. And just to list a couple of trainings that we have accomplished so far, we've did the shelter management training. We've did the DANA training, which is the damage assessment needs analysis, EOC, and much more. So with all the trainings done, I think this have been a good area for us to respond in times of disaster. Yeah. And you did mention what the council has done to prepare the residents as well. We have a set of CDRTs. We call them the Community Disaster Response Team. Mm-hmm. We have a team in each flood-prone area, I would say, which is the Jane Usher, the Crewman Lagoon area, and so forth. What we do is, in collaboration with the Belize Red Cross, we train these people and how to, basically in areas of how to respond to disasters as well. So what they do is they help us, feed us with information, and this makes our work very easy.
Okay.
Perhaps you can, or Natasha, you can talk a little bit about what the level of resources that you're working with are, and how it is that you have or you ensure that the public that you need to help is aware of what they need to do, perhaps to access your services in the event of a storm or a disaster. Do we have Natasha?
All right. I'm not sure if she's still on the line or muted at this time. I do know Jermaine has joined us. Are you there?
Hi, good morning.
Okay, great. So Jermaine, let's shift while we try to get Natasha back online to talk about traffic management. Is a huge part of preparing for the season, and evacuation routes are key. There are two things that will happen. City residents will flee for higher ground, and the island, the people who live on the islands have to come in and then move into inland areas as well. So let's talk about the plans that have been put in place.
Okay, Marlene, like you rightly said, it's a twofold approach as it relates to the evacuation. While we are doing the evacuation for Belize City, we're also tasked with that for the Keys as well. And so what we do is coordinate with the NEMA officials from the Keys so that when they gather their persons who are leaving the islands, they put them on a boat, they land here in Belize City, and we must take charge of them and get them safely to Belmopan. So what residents will see during this time is that you'll have buses labeled as the emergency evacuation buses, and they will be guided through the evacuation routes by the police vehicles or the traffic vehicles that we use. The lights and sirens will be on to let residents know that we're in an evacuation process. This is the evacuation route, so please give way to these people so that they can get them safely outside of the city. Like I said, while this is happening for the Keys, it also happens for Belize City as well. We have the 10 constituencies in Belize that we have to evacuate. And so we have the same thing. We have buses that will go to each pickup point. pick up persons and take them to their shelters in Belmopan. Each bus that will leave the pickup point will be labeled so that they know exactly where they're leaving from and where they're going to go when they land in Belmopan.
Okay. Now this is you know, I think such a critical part of what you will end up doing as CMO, even if Belize City isn't immediately under threat, because we know that the islands usually would evacuate if there's a threat to the north or anywhere central. Talk about the collaboration that it takes for working with people on the island as well. And that's Kikoka and San Pedro.
It requires a lot of collaboration because, like I said, we're moving people. And at the end of the day, we have to be accountable for all the persons that we're moving.
Yeah.
And so it's a relationship that we build, not just during the hurricane season, but out of the hurricane season as well. We have our monthly meetings. We have our meetings in Belmopan and Nemo to ensure that we're all working from the same page. When they meet with their persons in San Pedro and Kikoka, they actually prepare a manifest of people that they're moving from the island. So that manifest, when that leaves the key with a list of all the evacuees, that manifest comes here to Belize City. So I must ensure then that when that manifest reaches here, that I can account for everybody that left the island. And likewise, that coordination is required with me and Belmopan as well. Because when I put them on a bus and send them to Belmopan, I must ensure that if I'm in charge of 1,000 persons, that when the workers in Belmopan receives that number, that we're all on the same page, that at the end of the day, we can account for every single evacuee from the key.
And Melanie, why don't we talk a little bit, even though we touched on it earlier, when do preparations and planning start? And I would imagine that there's also, you know, you have to gather a lot of resources when you look forward to a coming hurricane season. So what is that process like?
Okay, preparations basically has begun from we've ended the hurricane season 2020. We've started right back again with the process. So it's basically a rolling ball. When it comes to our resources, the City Council basically takes this as a very important task. We gather our resources from the beginning of the year. This is to ensure that we have everything, all supplies needed to supply our EOC. I know when it comes to the shelters as well, the resources that we need, this is being supplied by the human development part. So I would say that all resources we've made, we've made this a very important task for us. So we have everything in the event we need to activate.
Okay. Now, one of the challenges that we face with every storm that poses a threat is getting residents in low-lying areas to recognize the threats that they have. Very often you have emergency calls way into the beginning of the passage of the storm. Have you been perhaps taking a different approach, maybe going in and doing some education to help people to prevent any possible last-minute evacuation?
Well, with the pandemic being in place, Marlene, we've made some changes indeed. We used to go out in the public to give out flyers, educate the residents physically. We used to also go out in schools, do presentations, not only on hurricane, but on floods and tsunami, fire as well. But what we have been doing now is we have been disseminating information via the big billboards, the one specifically that is placed over the overpass. Also, we have been disseminating information on our Belize City Council Facebook page. And I know a lot of people are familiar with our page, so they can get information off that as well. And when it comes to the schools, which is very important, we also have been taking disaster packages to these different schools. So whenever the parents go in to pick up their package, they will receive information from CMO to give to their children.
And, we've been talking a lot about, the management of the residents, but can you also talk a little bit about the relationship with the other emergency services that may be necessary at this time, like serves as the police, fire department, even medical community, which might have to respond to emergency situations?
All right. As I mentioned, CMO is not one organization. Basically, what we do is we work along with different stakeholders. And just to mention a few, we work along with NEMO. Basically, that is like our umbrella that we work off. And we also work with the Belize Red Cross, Ministry of Health. We work with police, Coast Guard. We also work along with BERT, UNICEF, and this is basically how we get our jobs done here in the city through these different stakeholders.
Yeah. Now let's just talk about how you will keep the information flowing if we do come under the threat of a storm. That's always one of the greatest challenges. You're fighting misinformation. That's always been something, but now you have social media that can really spread rumors even quicker. So what's the communication plan to make sure residents are adequately informed and with the correct information?
We always advise our residents to take heed of only listening to the officials. We communicate along with the Belize Met services and NEMO. So whatever information is disseminated, I always advise the residents, listen to only the officials, which is NEMO, CMO, or the Belize Met Service.
Okay. Now, as we start to wrap things up, what's your advice to residents of Belize City about ensuring, because we know a part of the drive is ensuring that trees are cut down, that unnecessary trash is taken out of the yards as well. And these are things that can be done now instead of when there is a storm out there looming. Who wants to give the advice? Do we have Councillor Pipersburg? No. Okay, so it has to be you, Melanie.
All right. Yes, just to help us here in the city, the residents can give a big hand by doing the proper procedures. We know the hurricane season begins officially today. Please make your preparations. Like you stated, Marlene, if you see dangers of trees, the branches hanging off, take the initiative to cut the branches. All your garbage, the big garbages, like some of us have refrigerators in our yards or in the front of our yards. Please make sure that you take the time out to call the organizations to come and pick up these stuff. Just try to secure yourself and keep yourself safe. I'm not sure if Mr. Hyde would want to give any.
Yeah, any closing advice? Yeah.
Yes. You touched on something key earlier, Marlene. You said how things are different now due to COVID, and that's key to the evacuation process. What could have happened last year and in previous years when we took a bus from Belize City to Belmopan, we could have taken probably 60 to 65 residents. But because of COVID, we're limited to the number of persons we can move at one given time. We're still working within a very small window. So my advice to residents would be when that call comes out from NEMO to say that it is time to evacuate, please coordinate and work with us so that we can get you safely from Belize City to a shelter in Belmopan, because we don't want that time window to close in on us and we're unable to get persons to Belmopan safely. We don't want to be working within the elements of the weather, especially on the highway. So when that call comes out, my advice to residents is to heed the call, get to the pickup point, and let's get safely transported to Belmopan.
All right. Well, I know that this is one of the easier conversations to have before, because we don't have the threat of a storm at this moment. But it is important that we remind people from as early as possible that we start to prepare before we come under the threat. So we hope that we've been able to offer some advice to our residents, and thank you for joining us and updating us.
Thank you too.
Thanks for having us.
All right. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a break, and when we come back, we'll be focusing on World Milk Day. That's coming up.
Are you a teacher or public sector employee who is thinking of owning your new home? Get the keys to your new home with Belize Bank's all-inclusive mortgage, the best financing option in Belize for your new home purchase or construction. Inclusive of all mortgage-related fees, no down payment, affordable terms, amazingly low interest rates. Visit our nearest branch to speak to one of our financial advisors to discuss how you can be one step closer to owning your new home. Some conditions apply.
With the touch of a finger, we can easily unlock our phones and securely gain access to our data. This technology is called biometrics, and the Social Security Board is introducing fingerprint recognition to make transactions and handling of your sensitive data secure, fast, accurate, and convenient. Is your identity safe? Fingerprint recognition will keep your Social Security record secure and confidential while making your access fast and easy. It protects your identity. Is your name a common one? Fingerprint recognition uses your unique characteristics, ensuring your hard-earned benefits go directly to you, the rightful owner. Tired of all the paperwork? Fingerprinting makes this hassle-free. Your convenience and your information security is our priority. Fingerprint recognition coming soon. Social Security at your fingertips.
2020 taught us the importance of being connected to the virtual world, and NextGen is here to keep its commitment to you. Even if you're physically apart, NextGen keeps you digitally connected.
Okay everyone, thank you for following me today.
NextGen provides more than just an internet plan. They provide service plans that support all your online needs. Sign up today and get your NextGen's ultra high-speed internet service. NextGen, powered by Central TV and Internet.
It's a fact that with Smart, you get truly unlimited everything. Only with Smart, you get unlimited data anytime. While with the other guy, it's only double data on weekends. With unlimited data every day with Smart, there's no need to wait. So, it's a fact that our unlimited plans beat the competition. Stop being measured and told when to use your data and get unlimited talk, text, and data. Experience the true unlimited plans with Smart. That's a fact. Make the switch and live smart.
Hola, Tony.
Hey, Kevin, ¿qué onda? ¿Qué pasa?
Nada, le vine a buscar porque necesito comprar más mercancías de vasos y platos desechables para mi tienda de comestible. Me estoy quedando sin esas cosas.
No, hombre, fíjate que desde el 15 de abril no puedo importar nada de eso. Y se me acaba de terminar todo lo que tenía hace como 3 semanas.
Oye, pero nunca has estado sin esas cosas. ¿Qué está pasando?
Mira esto. Esta es la nueva ley que prohíbe todo el uso de plásticos no reutilizables. Esos son vasos, platos, cucharas, tenedores, todo eso. Desde 15 de abril de este año no he podido importar nada de eso. A partir del 15 de enero del 2021 nadie puede fabricarlo. 15 de abril 2021 nadie lo puede vender. Y a partir del 14 de julio del 2021 si alguien te agarra con eso, te multan.
Híjole, no sabía eso. Necesito cambiar algunas cosas. Les diré a mis clientes por qué esas cosas ya no están disponibles. Gracias, Antonio.
Así es, cuídate, man.
As one of the largest cable and internet providers in Belize, CBC strives to provide our customers with the highest standards of quality, value, and service in all aspects of cable TV and internet. Monitoring our systems closely, our technicians combine creative planning and state-of-the-art technology with years of experience and training to develop and provide the most reliable and advanced cable and internet service to exceed your expectations. For CBC and our team of talented engineers, technicians, and customer service representatives, delivering less than the very best is never an option.
Working off-site doesn't mean you have to be off your game. Studies have shown that simply adding a keyboard and mouse to your laptop increases productivity by 26%. Add a monitor and you'll be 35% more productive. At Fulltech Systems, we have what you need to enhance your remote work or e-learning experience. With devices such as headsets, video conferencing monitors, webcams, keyboards, mice, docking stations, all with the brands you trust. Keep connected with collaboration tools like Microsoft 365 Suite and Kaspersky and perform efficiently no matter where you are. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
That's the sound of fuel efficiency. Every day, every time, I choose Una Fuels, powered with Dynamax. Una, a brand committed with the future.
Dwayne Moody, Isani Cayetano, Andrea Polanco, Paul Lopez. Your News 5 Belize teams do whatever it takes. Go wherever they need to go, so you can catch the story wherever you are, whenever you want, on whatever device. Channel 5 Belize on television, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Because news is now everywhere, all the time. And so are we.
And we're back. And if you're joining us right now, we're getting our third conversation for this morning started. And June 1st is International World Milk Day. And so we're going to be talking all about the benefits of milk. And here we have joining us Aisha Trapp, who is a marketing manager from the Sandcrest Group. And we also have the Dutch lady with us.
Hi.
Hi. Well, good morning, Aisha. This is a really exciting day.
Yes, good morning. Of course, it cannot be International World Milk Day without Dutch Lady.
Of course.
So we have some wonderful promotions going on today. Countrywide, I'm happy to say that it's not only in Belize City. What we have posted on our social media pages is our southern tour, which includes Belmopan and Cayo. For us, that part is included in our Sandcrest southern area. So we do PG. People, right? I know, I have to make that clear to everybody. PG, Dangriga, what is the way how we divide internally. So it means that we're going to the west also. We're going to revise and include all the stores in the city. So please, Belize City, don't get jealous.
You call it southern because for us in Belize City, we have to pass through Cayo for go south.
Exactly. So So we have Belmopan, we have Dangriga, Santa Elena. We have, of course, our first stop has to be PG because we've been getting a lot of requests and a lot of people asking, when are you guys bringing the promotions down this side?
Yeah.
So you are the first one on our list. PG, we're going to head down there on the 11th and 12th, offering these wonderful promotions right here. And for the month of June, we're offering you buy 4 of any of the semi-skim, the skim, the condensed, and the evaporated milk. You get 1 free, 1 of each free. So
they're already packed.
They are already packed like this. And if you notice, we are using our little mesh bags there. So when you go to our stores today, Bottom Dollar, Save You, we have at 88 Supermarket also. You will find these promotions on the shelf, and they wanted to put it up from yesterday, but we said, okay, just wait, because I think people are going to just flock this.
Well, everybody's looking for a deal.
Yes,
One free milk, that's one less that you have to buy.
Definitely. So we're happy about this promotion, and we know it's going to go well all across the country. So we're looking forward to seeing those people down south and in the west and Belize City. Of course, we're going to be adding more stores as the month comes along. So I believe we have in Ladyville, Sky City, and we're also going to add public supermarkets. So everywhere you turn, you're going to see the deals.
Nice. Well, I see your skim milk is looking a bit different.
Yes, it is. We rebranded the label. The original, everything was blue before. So what we did was made a difference in there, putting it green and highlighting how much of the percentage of fat is in it, which is less than 0.1% is in our skim, and then the semi-skim is 1.5%. So I know people always think it's something new when the package changes. It's the same thing. So it's the same milk, same great taste, but just that it has a different package, and everything has been rebranded. So little by little, you're going to be seeing the different. This is the old design, but if you go in the store, some stores already have the new design. So please don't think that we're bringing in another brand. It's the same Dutch Lady. We're just making it a little bit more, conscious for you to identify what you're purchasing.
Yeah, because they all used to be blue before, so you have to be sure to read the label before
definitely. So it's highlighted now, guys. So semi is the blue. It still has a highlighted, but it has it here clearly what it is, no?
For sure.
Yes.
So we're celebrating World Milk Day, talking all about milk. Why was this important? This promotion important, and why is it important to celebrate milk?
Okay, well, of course, since 2001, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations made milk a global food. So, of course, we, introduced Dutch Lady in 2012. So we were one of the first companies to start celebrating World Milk Day in Belize. And we have to continue this. It's very important to us. It's very important to our supplier, Frisian Campina, who is our supplier for Dutch Lady. So if you go online today and type in World Milk Day, you will see so many things happening around the world, and we can't be left out, right?
Yep.
We have to ensure that we have something going on.
Well, you used to do it in pre-COVID. You used to have your celebration with the kids at the library. So because they're not in school, that's not something.
We have to find, different ways of how to bring about, reminding people about our quality brand that we have to offer, and about the benefits and the health benefits of milk, of course. So we can't reach to the kids, but hopefully, hopefully next year we can do it bigger. So we added in, of course, our mini Dutch Lady.
I know.
And
does that mean you retire from your post?
I semi.
In case of emergency only.
But my child I trust this brand, and this is what I give to my child. So of course she love this brand. I think she doesn't have a choice, right?
Yeah.
But we represent it in full, showing you that it's from a baby to an adult. We want to encourage you to always choose the best.
I was asking you about buying trends because there are milk alternatives available in Belize, and some people opt for them. And I wondered how much we still have a loyal base that drink milk.
We do. Our number one seller is our Dutch Lady condensed milk.
Okay.
In all the portfolio. And what is growing is our UHT.
Okay.
The box milk. So people are still buying milk. The powder milk is one alternative that they choose that people that have bigger families also, you know, that can,
because
you
this
know,
one
go
can
a long
go
way.
longer.
Yes.
Yeah.
And of course, the evaporated milk is used mostly for recipes and desserts, but we still have a loyal milk base of our Dutch Lady, the regular milk that we all grew up on.
And of course, you have the options to choose which one you ever use.
Yes.
And let's talk a bit about the health benefits of milk, because that's the key thing here. I mean, we've always grown up knowing it's a source of calcium.
Yes, it has vitamin D. It's an excellent source of protein. So one of the things that our nutritionists always encourage, if your children, you know, we have children who do not like to eat whole meals. Karen Rosito, she had told us, you know, you can give them some Ovaltine with the Dutch Lady, and that's going to help them, you know. So besides the milk, you have other foods that are high in the phosphorus, the potassium found in the milk. But if you look at all of these vitamins and minerals found, even B vitamins, you will see that all of them, when you look it up, has milk as a part of it. So milk is so important. It helps with osteoporosis when you get older. That's, you know, your bones being brittle and all of that. So raise your glass today.
Get your little milk mustache on.
Yes. In it, make sure that you have a glass, a nice cold glass of Dutch Lady semi or skim, or if you prefer a warm cup of Ovaltine with your condensed. You know what's funny, that in the different parts of the area, people drink their Ovaltine different.
Okay, tell us.
So in the north, they prefer condensed milk in the Ovaltine. It's really good.
So it's water, condensed milk, and
the
Ovaltine.
Yes. In the city, we find that people prefer it with the powdered milk.
Interesting.
Yes.
That's
And
two different flavors there to your Ovaltine.
definitely. So I mean, when we go to different areas, we want to find out what people like. So we will see it in the trend of the sales when we go in the south. So we're bringing all these promotions and more to, you know, the south and also to Belize City. So while supplies last, guys, in our stores countrywide, if you have any questions about any of the promotions or where we'll be, just send us a message on our Facebook Messenger, Santiago Castillo Limited, even Bottom Dollar. I have to say, come and visit Bottom Dollar today. We'll be having some ideas that's made from the Ovaltine and the powder milk. That's pre-packed already, so it's easy for us to distribute it. We also have some pre-packed delicious Dutch Lady fudge.
Sign me up.
So we'll be giving those at Bottom Dollar throughout the day, so you can come and get a free sample. And we have some really nice displays. I have to say, people store Bottom Dollar and Save You. The staff and the merchandisers really put their all in making this day special. So come and take a picture, you know, at the display. Check out what we have to offer today and for the rest of the month.
And Madame Dutch Lady, which one is your favorite? Show it to us.
Which milk is yours?
This one.
Yes.
Why?
It's delicious.
How do you have it? You just drink it just like that?
No, I mix Ovaltine sometimes.
I have to buy it by the case.
Now, you also have other lines of there's a difference between these products, right?
Yes, there's another type of condensed milk, which is not here.
Okay.
That one is the full cream.
So there are two condensed milk on the shelf.
Milk. Yes, you have the filled and you have the full cream. So this one is the filled that's on sale on promotion. The full cream. You have people who prefer just the thick. The thick condensed milk. This
one you have to hit the can to get it out.
So those people go and look for that. That is a little bit more premium than this one. So of course that's a little niche that asks for that full cream condensed milk.
Okay. Which one is better for baking?
It depends on what you're making.
Oh, okay.
It depends because I know we have Miss Pamela Baird. Good morning to you. She makes really great lemon pies, and she uses this one.
The filled.
The filled.
Okay.
And then we have other people who purchase the full cream. They want it in their coffee, but like you said, they want the thick one that you can hit in there. But it
I would say blow the other end of the can, but we can't say that in COVID time. So for now,
it's a pop top.
Oh,
it's pop top.
Now you see.
We've transitioned from the where you have to board the two ends, you know. And
I really aged myself just now. Jeez.
So So if you notice, our milks are popped up now.
Yep.
So it makes it much easier, more sanitary for you to open. Even our little small milks, we have the smaller ones to these.
Yeah.
The mini ones. So those are popped up also.
Did you have mini condensed milk too at one time?
Yes, we did at one time. We had some tiny little condensed, but it didn't work out for us. So people use a lot. So
Of course, it's Belize. So
and there's a difference. There's a just one evaporated
one evaporated milk. Just the condensed has two kinds. Of course, the semi and the skim in the box. And our powder milk, we have different sizes.
Okay.
So this is the 900 grams. We have the big ones, the 2,500.
And how do you make your Ovaltine?
With sugar.
With sugar and
semi-skim.
Oh, she still keeps her semi-skim. Okay. See, that'll be the new generation now.
Yes.
So some people use condensed and some people use powder.
Yes, and of course this is the easiest thing to do. You just pop the top open and you pour it out. So depending on which cereal you're having or which oats, or even people use this for oatmeal as well.
Yeah.
You've seen a shift of how people prepare their oatmeal. They use this, and of course some people still want their rich condensed milk in their oats.
What's your favorite way to enjoy your milk?
My favorite way to enjoy is straight out of the box into a glass. So from the box to the glass and very
just
cold.
drink it like
Ice cold.
Ice cold.
Yeah. See, I actually find milk can be refreshing sometimes. Do you like milk?
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I mean, I can have everything else, but I do love an ice cold glass of milk as well.
Definitely. I love to have mine with ginger cookies.
Yeah. And I still not grow up, so I still sometimes eat like condensed milk and have a spoon or something.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you dunk your cookies in the milk.
No, that too.
You still have people talk
bread,
about they
anything.
put the condensed
milk on the bread.
Yep,
Yeah.
I
I used to do that, yeah.
I still do it.
Okay.
No shame in my game.
Or did you ever steal dry powdered milk as a kid? All right, me too. Me too, there you go.
I think that what people like about the powder milk is that it's dissolved in both cold and warm water. So you don't have to warm the water. And I know we like to put sugar in our powder milk, but we don't have to with this one because it's full cream powdered milk. So it's really sweet and
it has
creamy.
all the flavor already.
Yes, and you don't need a lot. You know how we go. We usually put like 3-4 spoons in our glass, but you don't need a lot of powder milk to make a nice, glass of milk.
All right. Well, let's ask the farmer herself. What's happening in the preparation for this milk? All right. So come on out. So Dutch lady, are you gonna go join them too? You have to show off those fancy clogs that you're wearing.
You notice that she has a full.
Come in more, yeah.
Come in more.
All right, we got the farmer with us. And do you hear it?
The cow?
Do you hear it? Do you hear it?
No, I'm not hearing it yet.
Oh. I think I heard someone move.
Moo. We've got.
You know what? You took all the cream out of the cow to put it in here. This cow is a bit tired. Good morning. All right, farmer, tell us a bit about your favorite Dutch lady.
Morning. My favorite Dutch lady milk is the semi-skim. Reason being, because it's semi-skim. So and I like it because it's 100% cow's milk.
All right. I don't know. Will the cow tell us?
Well, my favorite Dutch lady one is the condensed milk.
Okay.
I like it because it's sweet.
We won't ask how you get it sweet, right? All right, so that's it. We got the full compliment this morning. We got the cow, we got Miss Mini Dutch Lady, and we have the farmer with us as well. Let's talk one more time about the deal people can take advantage of.
Okay, so today in Bottom Dollar Save You, the People's Store 88, we have buy 4 get 1 free of these milks, and this promotion is in Bottom Dollar Save You and People's Store only. The powder milk with the Ovaltine, it's 15% off that package. All right, so look out for us in stores countrywide. We also have in Cayo, we have at Chen's, and we also have at New Flags the promotion today. So just keep in tune on our social media pages, Santiago Castillo Limited, or Bottom Dollar, or Save You, for you to see where we'll be heading next.
All right, and that Southern tour starts?
It starts June the 11th.
Okay.
All the way in PG.
All right.
Well, thank you all for coming in. Thank you too for having us, and happy World Milk Day out there, everyone. Happy International World Milk Day. Grab a glass, pour a nice ice cold glass of Dutch Lady milk, whichever one you prefer.
All right.
Okay. And with that, we are going to be taking our final break. Isha, thank you again for joining us, and everybody else from Dutch Lady Sancas team. But of course, we're going to be taking our final break, and when we come back, we're going to have our wrap up. So please stay tuned.
Hola, Tony.
Hey, Kevin, ¿qué onda? ¿Qué pasa?
Nada, le vine a buscar porque necesito comprar más mercancías de vasos y platos desechables para mi tienda de comestible. Me estoy quedando sin esas cosas.
No, hombre, fíjate que desde el 15 de abril no puedo importar nada de eso. Y se me acaba de terminar todo lo que tenía hace como 3 semanas.
Oye, pero nunca has estado sin esas cosas. ¿Qué está pasando?
Mira esto. Esta es la nueva ley que prohíbe todo el uso de plásticos no reutilizables. Esos son vasos, platos, cucharas, tenedores, todo eso. Desde 15 de abril de este año no he podido importar nada de eso. A partir del 15 de enero del 2021 nadie puede fabricarlo. 15 de abril 2021 nadie lo puede vender. Y a partir del 14 de julio del 2021 si alguien te agarra con eso, te multan.
Híjole, no sabía eso. Necesito cambiar algunas cosas. Les diré a mis clientes por qué esas cosas ya no están disponibles. Gracias, Antonio.
Así es, cuídate.
Good morning, sweetie. It's time for school.
Are you a teacher or public sector employee who is thinking of owning your new home? Get the keys to your new home with Belize Bank's all-inclusive mortgage, the best financing option in Belize for your new home purchase or construction. Inclusive of all mortgage-related fees, no down payment, affordable terms, amazingly low interest rates. Visit our nearest branch to speak to one of our financial advisors to discuss how you can be one step closer to owning your new home. Some conditions apply.
It's a fact that with Smart, you get truly unlimited everything. Only with Smart, you get unlimited data anytime. While with the other guy, it's only double data on weekends. With unlimited data every day with Smart, there's no need to wait. So, it's a fact that our unlimited plans beat the competition. Stop being measured and told when to use your data and get unlimited talk, text, and data. Experience the true unlimited plans with Smart. That's a fact. Make the switch and live smart.
Dwayne Moody, Isani Cayetano, Andrea Polanco, Paul Lopez. Your News 5 Belize teams do whatever it takes. Go wherever they need to go, so you can catch the story wherever you are, whenever you want, on whatever device. Channel 5 Belize on television, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Because news is now everywhere, all the time. And so are we.
Working off-site doesn't mean you have to be off your game. Studies have shown that simply adding a keyboard and mouse to your laptop increases productivity by 26%. Add a monitor, and you'll be 35% more productive. At Fulltech Systems, we have what you need to enhance your remote work or e-learning experience. With devices such as headsets, video conferencing monitors, webcams, keyboards, mice, docking stations, all with the brands you trust. Keep connected with collaboration tools like Microsoft 365 Suite and Kaspersky and perform efficiently no matter where you are. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
And we're back.
Yep, and if you're joining us now, we're just getting our show wrapped up. I want to say thank you to all our guests. Before we finish, we do have a giveaway alert.
That's right. You know what that means? It means if you are watching us at home, it's time to log on to Facebook, get on that live stream so you can be a part of our upcoming giveaway. It is World Milk Day, International Milk Day, and we were just joined by the Dutch lady herself to talk about all the different milk products that are available in Belize and with a special promotion today. Now, we are giving away
one entire case of skimmed Dutch Lady milk. And in order to do that, you are going to have to answer one question successfully. So if you're the first to answer, you are going to be getting the prize. And the question is to name the date and the location of one of the stops on the Dutch Lady tour. We did broadcast that on the screen earlier. So if you are watching, or maybe if you're on Facebook, you want to rewind a little bit.
I don't think you have time, because the winner is the person who answers first, who places the correct answer first on the Open Your Eyes live stream. Don't message, don't post it on your own page. Go to the live stream and comment there under, and you can find us at Open Your Eyes BZ. The winner gets one case of semi-skimmed milk. And all you have to do is tell us one date and location as to where Sandcastle's Dutch Lady Tour is going to be. And I believe, Madam Producer, we have a winner. We'll be telling you about that in just a few as they send that over to us. For now, we just want to say thank you for tuning in. Send us an email if you want to get in touch at oye@channel5belize.com. You can find us on Facebook, as you just have, at Open Your Eyes BZ.
You can also find us on Instagram at OIEBelize.
All right.
All right, but before we close off, we do have our winner. So we want to say congrats to Frankie Stein. You are, of course, the winner of a...
Yay!
Yep,
There you go. That's a pretty good prize,
no,
right?
Absolutely. You know, and what a better way to celebrate International World Milk Day. So Frankie, congrats. You are the winner of a case of Dutch Lady semi-skimmed milk.
All right, so you can come on over to Channel 5 and do bring an ID so we know who you are, and you can collect that prize. Thank you for participating, and thank you to all our viewers for today. Remember to tune in again tomorrow morning at 6:30.
When you open your eyes.
To start your morning right.
Yep. Until then, keep your mind, your eyes, and your heart
open. We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day, Belize.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.